All right, let's dive into a system that's all about managing the absolute chaos of modern life. David Allen's Getting Things Done. This is a game changer for getting control and, feeling less stressed. And it all kicks off with a really simple but kind of frustrating question about our own brains.
So let's get right to it, because this is something we've all felt, right? Your brain has this terrible habit of reminding you about something important at the worst possible time, like you're in a meeting, or you're driving, or you're just about to fall asleep. It seriously feels like your own mind is working against you.
David Allen has this perfect example. Imagine a flashlight with dead batteries, okay? So when does your brain decide to tell you, hey, you need to buy batteries? It's almost always when you're stumbling around in the dark staring at that useless flashlight. A smart brain would ping you when you're, walking right past the battery aisle in a store. But no, our brains just don't work that way. And that right there is the fundamental problem that Getting Things Done, or GTD, is built to solve.
Okay, so why are we all so overloaded? Well, a huge part of it has to do with how work itself has completely changed. Think about it. 100 years ago, work was, it was obvious. You plowed a field, you worked on an assembly line. You knew exactly when you were done for the day. But today, most of us are knowledge workers. Our projects, things like plan a marketing campaign or improve the training program, they don't have these clean, sharp edges. You could always make them better. There's always more information you could add. They're never really finished.
And all these unfinished things, they create what David Allen calls open loops. So what's an open loop? It's literally anything that's grabbed your attention but isn't resolved. That email you got to reply to? That's an open loop. The birthday gift you need to buy? Another one. That promise you made to your boss? Yep. Even that vague idea you had for a vacation. Every single one is a commitment your brain is trying to juggle. And honestly, it's failing.
And all of this leads to the central aha moment of the entire Getting Things Done philosophy. The reason we feel so completely overwhelmed is that we are using our brains for the wrong job. Simple as that.
Here it is. David Allen's core insight is this. Your mind is for having ideas, not for holding them. Just let that sink in. The moment we start using our brain like a messy storage closet for all our to-dos, that's when it becomes the #1 source of our stress.
The best way to get this is with a computer analogy. Your short-term memory? It's basically like your computer's RAM. It's super fast, but it can only handle a couple of things at once before it gets totally overloaded and everything slows to a crawl. So when you try to cram dozens of these open loops into your mental RAM, you get distraction, you get stress, you get chaos. What you really need is an external hard drive, a system you trust completely outside of your head.
Okay, so how do we actually build this trusted system? Well, GTD gives us a really simple 5-step workflow to get all that stuff out of your head and finally get it under control. It's 5 steps. First, you collect all your stuff into in-baskets. Second, you process every single item, you figure out what it is. Third, you organize it, putting it into the right bucket. Fourth, you review your whole system on a regular basis. And finally, number 5, you actually do the work, making really good choices about what to tackle next.
All right, let's zoom in on that process step for a second, because it's got one of the most powerful little tricks in this whole system. It's called the 2-minute rule.
The rule is so simple, it's almost genius. If the next action on something will take you less than 2 minutes to complete, you do it the very moment you think of it. Right then. Don't put it off, don't write it down, don't file it away. Just do it. And why? Well, it's just pure efficiency. It would literally take you more time to organize and track that little task than it would to just get it done and out of your life forever.
And look, don't underestimate how powerful this is. Allen tells a story about one executive who was drowning in over 300 emails a day. He started using the 2-minute rule and it saved him an entire hour of free time every single day. A simple habit like this, if you just stick with it, can totally transform your productivity.
And here's a great example of those first couple steps in action: collect and organize. Think about a huge project like move the office. Just as a thought in your head, it's totally paralyzing, right? But the second you start getting all those little pieces out of your head and onto a piece of paper or a whiteboard, you feel this immediate sense of clarity and control. You've taken the problem from inside your head and put it out there where you can actually deal with it.
But if there's one single habit that is the absolute master key to this entire system, it's this idea of relentlessly, obsessively clarifying the next action.
And this helps explain a really fascinating paradox. Have you ever wondered why some of the smartest, most creative people you know are also the biggest procrastinators? Well, it's because our bodies can't really tell the difference between something that's real and something we're just vividly imagining. Like if you just think really hard about biting into a sour lemon, your mouth will start to water.
It's the same thing with projects. When a really imaginative person thinks about a vague, huge project like due taxes, their brain immediately conjures up all these nightmare scenarios of audits and missing paperwork, and their body has a real physical stress reaction that just makes them want to go do anything else. And let's be honest, this is what most of our to-do lists look like. They're just filled with vague stuff, not actual actions. Tires. What is tires? You can't do tires. It's a project, an outcome. So every time your eyes scan over that word on your list, your brain just stalls out because it has to figure out the whole problem all over again from the beginning. The solution, the thing that cuts through all that fog, is to ask the single most important question in all of productivity. What is the very next physical, visible action I need to take to move this forward?
So the next action isn't get new tires. No, it's call the tire store for prices. Can you feel the difference there? It's such a subtle shift, but it changes everything. It takes this vague, stressful problem and turns it into a simple, clear, totally doable task. That is the secret to crushing procrastination and finally getting some momentum.
So when you start combining all these habits, getting stuff out of your head, using the 2-minute rule, always defining the next action, you start moving toward the ultimate goal of this whole system. And that goal is to reach a state of what you could call frictionless productivity. David Allen has this great analogy for it from rowing. They call it swing. It's that moment when you're in perfect sync, you're in total control, your mind is clear, and you're just flowing. You're not forcing the work anymore. The system itself is carrying you forward, almost effortlessly. At the end of the day, that's what getting things done is all about. It is a system for action. It's not about making these beautiful, perfect plans. It's about having a system you trust that lets you consistently and confidently take the next step. So I'm going to leave you with that one question that really does change everything. Just think of one thing that's on your mind right now, something that's causing you even a tiny bit of stress, and just ask yourself, what's your next action?